There's an unwritten rule in New York's underground fight clubs. The final round is a fight to the death. The winner walks out alive. The loser leaves in a body bag. Everyone thought I'd be the one walking out safe. After all, for 6 straight months, my name had been solid at the top of the leaderboard. But I never expected to see Tyler Vance step into the ring. He was my mentor. The man who taught me every punch, every feint, every finishing move. Fighting him was suicide. The moment the whistle blew, a barrage of brutal, merciless strikes rained down on me. With a sickening crack of my ribs, I crashed heavily to the canvas. As the referee declared the match over, I heard Tyler let out a soft sigh. Yesterday was Chloe's birthday. She wanted to see me beat you just once. Her health is failing. The doctors said she might not make it to her next birthday. I had to grant her this one last wish. Below the ring, Chloe Sinclair sat in her wheelchair. Her cheeks were flush with color, a smug smile playing on her lips. I lay on the cold floor, my chest barely moving. Even breathing was agony. I didn't know if Chloe would survive until next year, but I knew for a fact that I wouldn't survive the next 3 days. The deafening roar of the crowd cut off instantly. The referee gently placed his hand on my shoulder. "Can you get up, Aria?" Lying there, I felt my shattered rib pierce into my lung. Every word I gasped out felt like swallowing glass. "Let it go, Marcus." Losing to Tyler was a bitter pill, but I accepted it. After all, surviving in this cutthroat place for so long was entirely thanks to the moves he had taught me. Just last night, too excited to sleep, I had climbed up to the rooftop of the gym. The sky was filled with stars. Through my headphones, I could hear his deep, comforting breathing. My heart had been pounding like a drum, my voice trembling with hope. Tomorrow is my final fight. Will you be there to watch? I wanted Tyler to witness my ultimate victory. A soft chuckle had drifted from the other end of the line. "Of course I will." He kept his word. He actually came. He personally replaced my opponent, personally stepped into the ring, and personally signed my death warrant. Tyler unstrapped his gloves. A few minor scratches on his handsome face from our brief struggle. He extended a long, vein-defined hand toward me. "Stop being dramatic. Get up. The ring is no place to show weakness." Cough, cough. Just as I was about to reach for his hand, Chloe's sharp coughing cut through the air. She hunched over, trembling like a leaf in the wind. Tyler's brows furrowed instantly. He vaulted over the ropes without a second thought, rushing to her side to wrap a cashmere shawl around her shoulders. "The smell of blood is too strong here. You're too weak to handle this. Let's get you out." His voice sounded reprimanding, but it was dripping with pure indulgence. "I told you not to come. If you wanted to know the result, I could have just texted you. When have I ever broken a promise to you?" He cradled Chloe protectively in his arms. As they reached the exit, he glanced back at me over his shoulder. "Stop playing dead." I pulled my punches. "I know exactly how hard I hit. I know you're just mad that I broke your winning streak. I'll pick you up tomorrow and take you to that steakhouse you love." He was doing what he always did, trying to brush our conflicts under the rug with a free meal. I closed my eyes. But this time it was different. After they left, Coach Marcus helped me limp off the stage, begging me to go to the hospital. When I peeled off my shirt, my torso was covered in horrific, dark bruises. The purple and black bruising looked absolutely terrifying. Tyler's punches had been exceptionally heavy today. I splashed some rubbing alcohol over the cuts and tightly wrapped a compression bandage around my chest. Only then did I find the strength to speak. "I don't have many days left anyway. Let's not waste the money. I need to save every penny for Grandma Eleanor's medical bills." I cast my eyes down, forcing a weak smile. In my head, I began calculating the remaining balance on my card, wondering if it was enough to cover Grandma's next few rounds of chemotherapy. Suddenly, my phone lit up with a push notification. The cover photo of the trending article showed Tyler carrying Chloe in his arms out of the fight arena. The headline was massive and eye-catching. Asterisk sparks fly. Billionaire heir Tyler Vance and Chloe Sinclair take their romance public. Asterisk. Whether intentionally or not, Chloe had liked the post on Instagram before quickly unliking it. Marcus stood beside me, his voice cracking with rage. "These damn paparazzi keep making up lies. You're Tyler's actual girlfriend. She's just a..." I flipped my phone face down on the table, a bitter taste in my mouth. They come from the same social circle. They look good together. It's a perfect match. While I sat there dazed, the door to the locker room was slammed open. One of our neighbors stood there, panting and frantic. "Aria, this is bad. The Sinclair Group just bought out the Riverside district. They're tearing the whole neighborhood down to build luxury condos, and they're forcing everyone out. Your grandma, they threw her out on the street." I stood up so fast that a sharp, stabbing pain shot through my chest, making me gasp. After taking a few seconds to catch my breath, I threw on a jacket and sprinted out. The sky outside was heavy and gray, threatening to snow at any second. When I arrived home, the street was in utter chaos. Grandma was sitting on the freezing ground. Our few pieces of cheap furniture had been smashed to splinters. Several men in sharp suits were pinning Grandma's hand down, trying to force her thumbprint onto a contract. "Get your hands off her." I grabbed a broken broom handle and swung it wildly at them, forcing them to back off as I threw myself protectively over Grandma. In the scuffle, the contract fluttered to the ground, stained with dirty boot prints. I looked down at it. The compensation line read a glaring, mocking $0. Rage boiled in my veins. I glared at the suits. "This is robbery." A neighbor opened their door and peeked out. "Arya, just tell your grandma to sign it. The $500,000 buyout is enough to pay for her hospital bills." My brain went numb. My voice was dry. "What $500,000 buyout?" The neighbor looked confused. "The relocation package. The Sinclair Group is offering that same flat rate to everyone in the neighborhood." I turned my glaring eyes to the lead suit. "Why is ours $0?" The man sneered, adjusting his tie. "You only have yourself to blame for crossing the wrong person. Consider this a lesson in respect. I suggest you sign it quietly. Otherwise, with how sick your old lady is, I doubt she can survive us hounding her every day." My heart sank into a dark abyss. The person I shouldn't have crossed, the Sinclair Group. Was this Chloe's idea? The men didn't deny it. Their silence was answer enough. I remembered the night Tyler proposed to me. Chloe, who had always been perfectly healthy, suddenly fell critically ill and was rushed to the ICU. The entire Sinclair family went into a frenzy. When the call came in, Tyler was in the middle of fastening his family's heirloom diamond necklace around my neck. "Chloe is in trouble." Leaving me with only those words, he turned and ran without looking back. When I saw him the next day, that exact necklace was already hanging around Chloe's neck. Tyler had stood in front of her like a shield, treating me as if I were some kind of monster. Chloe fell in love with the necklace. "I'm just letting her wear it for a bit." Seeing that I didn't respond, his expression had darkened. "Since when did you become so petty? She's a dying girl, Arya. Don't pick a fight with her." Chloe had grabbed my hand, her other hand gently stroking the diamond pendant. "I don't have much time left anyway, Arya. Please don't be mad at me." Her voice was incredibly fragile, but her sharp fingernails dug deep into my palm, leaving bloody crescent marks. It was on that day that I fully realized Chloe's sick obsession with Tyler. She hated me. She hated that I, a nobody, had taken her place. But I never imagined her hatred would drive her to put me and my family on a literal death path. After the suits left, I turned around and slowly helped Grandma off the cold ground. As we walked into the ruined house, the distant sky suddenly erupted with brilliant, dazzling fireworks. It was beautiful and grand. I looked up, noticing that the first snow of the year had quietly started to fall. Back in late autumn, Tyler had held my hand and made a promise. "When the first snow falls, I'm going to throw the most magnificent fireworks show for you. I want the whole city to witness our happiness." Now the snow was falling, but the fireworks and the man no longer belonged to me. Due to the extreme shock, Grandma ran a dangerously high fever that very night. Left with no other choice, my hands shook violently as I dialed Tyler's number. The phone rang for a long time before he finally picked up. "Tyler, Grandma's." Before I could finish, his exhausted, irritated voice cut me off. "Are you seriously using the grandma is sick excuse again to make me come over? Arya, this trick is getting really old." The rest of my words choked in my throat, completely blocked. Tyler continued. "Chloe is just finishing her bath. She can't sleep lately without me reading to her. Have some decency and show some compassion to a dying girl. Stop throwing these pathetic tantrums." I lowered my head, hot tears splashing onto the back of my hand one by one. I still remembered the very first time I stepped into the underground ring. I had been beaten to a pulp. When I was dragged off the canvas, my face was swollen beyond recognition. As I huddled in a dark corner of the locker room, a clean white handkerchief was suddenly offered to me. Tyler had stood there, blocking the harsh overhead light, his voice softer than silk. "Clean yourself up." After that, he was the one who applied my ointment, accompanied me to visit Grandma, and taught me how to use my body's leverage to deliver the most devastating punches. After my first win, he had pulled my head into his chest in front of everyone, his warm breath tickling my ear. "From now on, you can lean on me." I actually believed him. Looking back now, I was such a fool. Grandma lay on the bed, her breath growing hotter and more labored by the minute. I wiped away my tears, walked outside, and pulled out our old, rusty utility cart. I lined it with a thick blanket. Then, gritting my teeth through the agonizing pain in my chest, I carried Grandma on my back and laid her gently in the cart. The snow on the road was thick and heavy. I dragged the cart, my boots sinking deep into the snow with every agonizing step. By the time we reached the hospital doors, I had completely lost all sensation in my limbs. A team of doctors rushed out to wheel her in. Soon, the red light of the operating room turned on. I leaned against the wall, my eyes staring blankly at the door. The snow on my shoulders had melted into freezing water, soaking through my thin jacket. Thankfully, The doctor's words gave me a glimmer of hope when he walked out. We've stabilized her for now, but she needs to start the next phase of treatment immediately. My heart hammered with anxiety. How much will the subsequent treatment cost? Around $100,000. I let out a sigh of relief. Over the past 2 years, I had barely taken a break, fighting match after match. The money I had saved up was just enough to cover the $100,000. When I entered the ward, Grandma had already regained consciousness. Arya, Grandma is a burden to you again. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. I pulled out my bank card and tucked it safely under her pillow. Grandma, use this card to pay for your treatments. When I'm not here, you have to take good care of yourself. The next day, while waiting in line at the hospital pharmacy, I bumped into Chloe. Oh, Arya, what a coincidence. I had a slight headache last night, but Tyler insisted on bringing me to the hospital for a full checkup today. I clenched my jaw, refusing to engage with her. But when I returned to the ward, my heart stopped. Grandma was lying on the cold floor, having fallen out of bed. Grandma's hands were shaking violently, and she was crying hysterically, clutching her head in distress. I grabbed her hands, my stomach dropping. What happened? Tears poured down her wrinkled face as her lips trembled. Some men, they broke into the room just now and took the card. It's my fault. I'm so useless. I couldn't protect your hard-earned money. She kept sobbing, her face pale with helplessness and despair. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. My vision began to go black. Grandma grabbed my arm, her eyes filled with terror. They were the same men, the ones who came to tear down our house yesterday. I instantly pictured Chloe's smug smile downstairs. It was her. I turned and bolted out of the room. In the distance, I spotted the familiar silhouette in the wheelchair. Chloe Sinclair. I ran up to her, my eyes bloodshot, and demanded, "Give me my card back." She tilted her head, her face a mask of sweet innocence. Arya, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Stop lying. I grabbed the armrest of her wheelchair, begging desperately. Do whatever you want to me. I don't care about Tyler anymore. You can have him. Just give me my money back. Please, I need that money to save my grandma. She stared at me for a second. Suddenly, her eyes welled with tears, and her shoulders began to shake. Arya, you're scaring me. The next second, a powerful force shoved me violently to the side. Tyler grabbed my arm, his eyes burning with pure fury. You really never learned, do you? Harassing Chloe at the hospital? I guess I went too easy on you in the ring yesterday. I let out a hollow laugh that sent a stabbing pain through my chest. I looked at him with dead, empty eyes. I just want her to give my money back. Tyler's brow furrowed. You lost your money? If your money is gone, you can earn it back. Why the hell are you taking it out on Chloe? I wrenched my arm out of his grip, screaming in absolute despair. There is no time. I don't have the time to earn it back. Tyler's temper flared, and he slapped me hard across the face. What do you mean no time? I've spoiled you for too long, and now you've just gotten lazy. You're nothing but a pathetic piece of trash. Once he had called me a wildflower, resilient, unique, and beautiful. He said that was why he fell for me. Now he called me trash. I swallowed the metallic taste of blood rising in my throat. He turned and began pushing Chloe's wheelchair away. I am so incredibly disappointed in you, Arya. My body went rigid, but I didn't miss the fleeting look of triumph in Chloe's eyes. And there, slipping slightly from the sleeve of her coat, was a flash of my familiar blue bank card. The stinging heat on my cheek was nothing compared to the ice flooding my chest. Tyler turned his back, pushing Chloe's wheelchair smoothly toward the VIP elevator. His shoulders were broad, relaxed, and confident. He truly believed he had dealt out a necessary dose of discipline to a troublesome child. I stood frozen on the marble floor of the hospital lobby, watching their shadows stretch and disappear behind the silver doors. When I stumbled back into Grandma's ward, Marcus was already there. He had brought a thermos of hot soup and was sitting beside Grandma's bed, his hands trembling as he tried to calm her down. When Marcus looked up and saw my face, the red handprint glowing against my deathly pale skin, the blood trickling from the corner of my mouth, his eyes went wide with sheer fury. That bastard, Marcus growled, standing up so fast his chair screeched against the linoleum. He hit you? After what he did to you in the ring yesterday? Marcus, don't, I rasped. My voice sounded like dry leaves scraping across concrete. I walked over to the bed and took Grandma's cold, trembling hand in mine. He looked at me with tear-filled, milky eyes, her fingers brushing against my bruised cheek. Arya, my sweet girl. She whimpered, her mind slipping between coherence and feverish delirium. Did you get hurt? We don't need the money, let's just go home. We're staying right here, Grandma, I whispered, forcing a smile through the agonizing pain in my ribs. I'm going to get our money back. Every single cent. Marcus grabbed my arm, his tone laced with horror. Arya, you can barely stand. Your lung is bleeding. The doctor said if you take one more solid hit to the torso, your rib is going to sever your main artery. Then I won't take another hit, I said, looking him dead in the eye. You don't understand, Marcus pleaded, his voice cracking. The Sinclair Group didn't just take your card. They locked down the Riverside district. Chloe's family controls the underground permits too. They're hosting the Iron Syndicate death match tomorrow night at the docks. The entrance purse is $500,000 cash on the table, but it's an unmonitored slaughterhouse. $500,000, I repeated softly. That wasn't just enough for Grandma's chemotherapy. That was enough to buy her a quiet house far away from New York, far away from Tyler Vance, far away from this nightmare. Sign me up, Marcus. Aria, no. That's suicide. I'm dying anyway. I screamed, the sudden force of my breath tearing through my chest like a hot blade. I collapsed onto my knees, coughing violently into my hand. When I pulled my hand away, my palm was covered in dark, thick crimson. Marcus froze, his face draining of all color. I wiped my hand on my jeans and looked up at him, my vision blurring around the edges. Tyler took 6 months of my life. Chloe took my home and my grandma's medicine. I have 2 days left, Marcus. I am not going to die in a corner like a kicked dog. That night, the cold in the abandoned gym was suffocating. I sat on a wooden bench, wrapping my chest tightly with layers of industrial duct tape over heavy gauze. Every pull of the tape squeezed my fractured ribs together, sending shockwaves of agony straight to my brain. Cold sweat poured down my back. Marcus stood beside me, holding a black velvet box. If you're really doing this, he said quietly, you need these. He opened the box. Inside lay 2 brass knuckle wraps embedded with ground steel. Dust, illegal even by underground fight standards. They call the target in tomorrow's fight the executioner, Marcus murmured. He's a 6'5" Russian powerhouse hired by the Sinclair Group to clean up the bracket. Chloe Sinclair personally financed his entry. I picked up the wraps, feeling their brutal weight. Chloe wants to make sure I never leave that cage alive, I said softly. She doesn't know you're fighting, Marcus replied. She thinks you're rotting in a hospital room. But Tyler reserved the center VIP booth for tomorrow night. He's hosting a celebration party for Chloe's fake charity foundation. A bitter, humorless smile touched my lips. A celebration party above a cage of blood. How typical of New York's elite. Just then, my phone chimed on the bench. It was a text from Tyler. I paid off your grandmother's basic hospital fee for tonight. Don't say I never cared about you. Stop being bitter. Come to the Docks venue tomorrow at 8 p.m. Chloe wants you to apologize to her in person. If you do, I'll consider giving you back your position at the gym. I stared at the words until the screen went dark. He paid the basic fee, a measly few $100s, like throwing a bone to a stray dog, while his precious Chloe held my $100,000 savings card in her pocket. And he expected me to come beg on my knees for his forgiveness. I picked up my phone, my fingers completely steady, and typed back a single sentence. I'll be there. The Docks was a massive, rusted shipyard warehouse on the edge of the Hudson River. Inside, the stench of cheap liquor, sweat, and stale blood hung heavy in the air. Hundreds of high society gamblers, dressed in tuxedos and evening gowns, leaned over the iron railings of the upper balconies, waving thick wads of cash and shouting obscenities. In the center of the floor stood the steel pit, a 20-foot octagonal cage, enclosed by chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. In the high VIP booth overlooking the pit, Tyler sat on a leather couch, an expensive glass of scotch in his hand. Chloe sat beside him in her wheelchair, draped in a white mink coat, her cheeks flushed with excitement as she watched the crowd below. Tyler, look at those savages down there, Chloe giggled, leaning her head onto his shoulder. It's so thrilling. Are you sure Aria won't mind coming here? Tyler took a slow sip of his drink, his eyes scanning the crowded floor with cold indifference. She'll come, he said calmly. She has nowhere else to go. She needs my help, whether her pride admits it or not. You're too kind to her, Tyler, Chloe sighed, resting her hand over his. After the way she acted at the hospital. Down in the dark, damp holding tunnel beneath the arena, I stretched my arms. Every movement felt like needles driving into my lungs. The painkiller shot Marcus had bought from an underground street dock was starting to wear off, leaving my skin burning with fever. Next match. The announcer's voice roared through the intercom, echoing off the iron rafters. In the red corner, the undefeated terror of Eastern Europe, the executioner. The crowd went wild. A massive wall of a man stepped into the ring, flexing muscles that looked like carved granite. And in the blue corner, the announcer paused, looking down at his clipboard, with a look of utter confusion. A late walk-in entrant. Entry number 44. I stepped out of the dark tunnel into the glaring spotlight. I wore black fighting shorts and a tight black tank top, my torso bound tightly. Beneath, I had no robe, no entourage, no banner. Just my bare feet on the cold, blood-stained canvas. The crowd fell into a bewildered silence for a fraction of a second, before bursting into deafening laughter. "Is this a joke?" someone shouted from the balcony. "They put a little girl in there with a monster?" Up in the VIP booth, Tyler's glass slipped from his fingers. The heavy crystal shattered against the floor, amber whiskey soaking into the expensive rug. Tyler stood up so fast he nearly knocked Chloe's wheelchair over his face, turning deathly pale as he stared down into the pit. "Aria. What is she doing down there?" Tyler slammed his hands against the glass balcony, his voice cracking with sudden, overwhelming rage. "Is she insane?" Chloe's eyes widened in genuine shock, her fingers tightening around the arms of her wheelchair. "Why? Why is she in the ring?" "Tyler, stop her. She's going to get killed." Down in the cage, the referee didn't care who I was. He raised his hand and brought it down sharply. "Fight." Before the sound of the bell even faded, the executioner surged forward like an armored tank. His fist, the size of a cannonball, cut through the air straight toward my temple. He was fast, but to my eyes, trained by hundreds of hours of brutal sparring against Tyler Vance, his movement was wide and sloppy. I ducked beneath the swinging arm, the wind of his punch whistling past my ear. I planted my back foot, channeled every ounce of force from my hips through my core and drove a steel-wrapped left hook straight into the side of his liver. It sounded like a sledgehammer hitting a rack of meat. The giant froze. His eyes bulged, all the air exploding out of his lungs in a wet gasp. Before he could recover, I spun on my heel, bringing my right elbow down like an axe straight onto the bridge of his nose. Crack. Blood sprayed across the canvas. The giant collapsed to his knees, his massive frame shaking as he clutched his broken face. The entire warehouse went dead silent. Hundreds of wealthy spectators froze, their mouths agape. I stood over the fallen giant, my chest heaving, every ragged breath tasting like copper. Blood began to seep through the white gauze beneath my tank top, turning the black fabric wet and heavy. Up in the VIP booth, Tyler was frantically pushing past his bodyguards, tearing down the stairs toward the floor. "Aria. Stop," he screamed, his voice swallowed by the sudden deafening roar of the crowd. I didn't look up at him. I looked at the referee. "Call it," I spat out, wiping a streak of blood from my lip. The referee snapped out of his trance, hurriedly grabbing my hand and raising it into the air. "Winner by knockout. Number 44. The crowd erupted into chaotic cheers. Bets were being settled, money was changing hands, but I cared about only one thing. I turned toward the promoter's desk at the edge of the cage, pointing my bloodied hand at the metal briefcase sitting on the table. "My money," I demanded. "Now. Aria. Get out of that cage right now." Tyler's voice roared from the edge of the pit. He hurled himself over the security barrier, shoving two guards aside, his face flushed with panic and fury. He reached through the chain-link door, grabbing my arm tightly. "Are you completely out of your mind?" he yelled, his eyes burning as he looked at the blood soaking my waist. "You came here to fight underground illegal matches. For what?" "To get revenge on me." I slowly pulled my arm out of his grip. My skin felt burning hot, yet my heart was ice cold. "Revenge?" I let out a dry, rasping laugh. "You think too highly of yourself, Tyler." The promoter nervously handed the metal briefcase over the wire mesh. I took it, feeling its heavy, solid weight. $500,000 in clean cash. "Aria, look at yourself." Tyler reached for me again, his voice dropping into a desperate, frantic pleading that I had never heard from him before. "You're bleeding. You're hurt. Come with me right now. My personal medical team is outside." "Don't touch me," I said flatly. Chloe had rolled her chair down the ramp, accompanied by two Sinclair bodyguards. Her face was a mask of dramatic concern, tears sparkling in her eyes. "Aria, how could you do something so reckless?" Chloe whimpered softly. "If Tyler hadn't brought me here tonight, we wouldn't even know you were killing yourself like this. Why are you doing this to Tyler? Can't you see how much he cares about you?" I looked at Chloe. Then I looked at the blue bank card poking out from the small leather pocket attached to the side of her wheelchair. My bank card. I stepped out of the cage, ignoring Tyler entirely, and walked straight toward Chloe. "Aria, stop." Tyler blocked my path, standing in front of Chloe like a protective shield. "She's frail. Don't you dare touch her." "Get out of my way," I whispered. I said a no. Tyler raised his hand to push me back. My body reacted on pure instinct. I didn't use the flashy moves he had taught me. I used the raw, lethal strikes I had perfected in the darkest alleyways of New York before I ever met him. I slapped his hand away, ducked under his guard, and drove my knee straight into His stomach. Tyler gasped, staggering back 3 steps, his eyes wide with utter shock. He had never expected me to hit him. Before his bodyguards could move, I reached down, grabbed the blue bank card from Chloe's wheelchair and ripped it out. Chloe shrieked in terror, covering her face. Tyler, save me. She's crazy. I held the card in front of Tyler's face, my hand shaking violently, tears finally burning my eyes. You called me a liar, I rasped, my voice shaking the entire room. You slapped me in the hospital lobby and called me a pathetic piece of trash when I told you. She stole my money. Tyler stared at the blue card in my hand. His mind seemed to short-circuit. That's... He stammered, looking from the card to Chloe's pale, panicked face. This was my grandmother's life money. I choked out, a fresh wave of blood spilling from my lips, dripping onto the shiny plastic card. She broke into my grandma's room and stole it. And you protected her. Tyler's breath hitched. He turned his head slowly to look at Chloe. Chloe, is that Aria's card? Chloe's eyes darted wildly. Her sweet, innocent mask cracked for a split second, revealing a flash of sheer, venomous malice before she burst into dramatic sob. No, Tyler, it's not what you think, she cried, grabbing his coat sleeve. I found it on the floor at the hospital. I was going to give it back to her, but she attacked me before I could. A child wouldn't believe a lie that stupid. Tyler stood frozen, looking at Chloe's trembling hands, then down at the blood dripping from my chin onto the floor. For 6 months, he had believed every word that came out of her mouth. He had treated her like a fragile glass doll that needed protection from the world. And, especially from me. Now the veil was being ripped away in the most brutal way possible. You found it on the floor? Tyler repeated, his voice barely a whisper. In her grandmother's ward. Yes. I swear. Chloe sobbed, hugging his arm tightly. Tyler, you have to believe me. I'm sick. I wouldn't steal from anyone. I didn't stay to watch her performance. I clutched the briefcase in one hand, the bloodied bank card in the other, and turned toward the exit. Aria. Wait. Tyler turned away from Chloe, stepping forward to catch me. Don't come near me, I warned without turning around. If you step any closer, Tyler, I will kill you. Or I will die right here in front of you. Choose. My voice was so dead, so utterly void of emotion, that Tyler's foot froze in midair. He watched me limp toward the heavy metal doors of the warehouse, my black tank top completely stained red, leaving a trail of bloody footprints behind me on the concrete. Marcus. I gasped into my earbud as I pushed through the doors into the freezing night air. I got the money. Get the ambulance ready for Grandma. We're leaving New York tonight. Aria, where are you? Marcus's panicked voice came through the speaker. The doctor just looked at your initial scans from yesterday. He said your internal bleeding is severe. You need emergency surgery right now. After Grandma is safe, I whispered, collapsing against the cold brick wall of the alleyway. Snow was falling heavily now, blanketing the dirty city in white. I closed my eyes, feeling the freezing cold seep into my bones, numbing the agonizing fire in my chest. 3 days. My 3 days were almost up, while I was being rushed into a private clinic on the outskirts of Connecticut, arranged by Marcus's old contacts in the boxing underground. New York's elite society was hit by a massive earthquake. In the master suite of the Vance estate, Tyler stood before a private investigator he had hired an hour after leaving the docks. On the mahogany desk lay a thick yellow folder. Mr. Vance, the investigator said quietly, his tone hesitant. You asked me to look into Miss Chloe Sinclair's medical records from St. Jude's Hospital. Tyler stood by the window, staring out at the snowstorm. His face was hollow, his eyes sunken. Speak, Tyler commanded, his voice cold. Miss Sinclair was never terminally ill, the investigator revealed flatly. Tyler's body went rigid. What did you say? Her medical reports were completely fabricated, the investigator continued, pulling out a stack of financial receipts. Over the past 2 years, the Sinclair family has paid Dr. Eris over $2 million to forge her diagnostic files, blood tests, and ICU admission records. Tyler turned around slowly, his chest heaving. Why? Why would they do that? Miss Sinclair has a severe histrionic personality disorder, Mr. Vance. She became obsessed with you 3 years ago. When she realized you were growing close to Miss Aria, she used the terminal illness narrative to keep you tethered to her side. The investigator paused, taking a breath before delivering the final blow. Furthermore, the Sinclair Group's real estate division intentionally targeted the Riverside district to destroy Miss Aria's home. Miss Sinclair personally signed the $0 eviction order. She told her enforcers, and I quote, "Make sure the old woman dies on the street, so Aria has nothing left to live for." Crack. The heavy crystal glass in Tyler's hand shattered completely, shards of glass digging deep into his palm. Blood dripped onto the Persian rug, But he didn't seem to feel it. His mind reeled back through the past 6 months. Every time Arya had tried to tell him the truth, every time she had looked at him with hurt in her eyes, every time he had pushed her away, slapped her face, beaten her in the ring, and chosen Chloe. She's a dying girl, Arya. Don't pick a fight with her. You're nothing but a pathetic piece of trash. I pulled my punches. I know exactly how hard I hit. Tyler fell onto his knees, grabbing his hair as a dry, horrific scream tore from his throat. He hadn't been protecting a dying angel. He had been protecting a monster, while personally driving the woman he loved into her grave. The rain in Connecticut was soft and steady. Inside the private recovery room, the steady beep, beep, beep of the heart monitor filled the quiet air. I opened my eyes slowly. The ceiling was white. The air smelled of disinfectant and faint lavender, not blood and rust. She's awake. Marcus's voice broke the silence. He rushed to my bedside, his face haggard and exhausted, but his eyes shining with relief. Arya, you made it, he choked out, grabbing my hand. The surgeon operated on you for 9 hours. They repaired your lung and set your ribs. The doctor said it was a miracle you survived the night. I blinked slowly, looking around the room. Grandma. She's in the room right next door. Marcus smiled, wiping a tear from his eye. The chemotherapy started this morning. The doctor said her vitals are stabilizing. The money you won saved her life, Arya. A deep, overwhelming sense of peace settled over my chest. It was over. The pain, the fear, the blood, the endless struggle in the dark. It was all over. Marcus, I whispered softly. Thank you. Just then, the door to the ward was pushed open. A man stood in the doorway. He was soaking wet from the rain, his expensive designer suit torn and filthy. His hands were covered in bloody bandages, his eyes red and frantic, filled with a desperate, terrifying insanity. It was Tyler. He had searched every hospital, every clinic, every underground facility within a 300-mile radius for 36 straight hours to find me. When his eyes landed on me lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to 4 tubes and monitors, his knees buckled. He collapsed onto the floor, crawling on his hands and knees across the linoleum toward my bed. Arya. He sobbed, his voice raw and broken, like a man drowning in acid. Arya, my God. Arya. Marcus immediately stepped in front of the bed, his fists clenched, his eyes blazing with hatred. Get the hell out of here, Vance. Marcus roared. You've done enough. Arya. Please. Tyler ignored Marcus completely, crawling until his forehead touched the side of my bed. He reached out with trembling, blood-stained hands, desperately trying to touch the hem of my blanket, but he didn't dare lay a finger on me. I know everything, Tyler wept, his shoulders shaking hysterically. I found out. Dr. Eris confessed, the Sinclair family, Chloe. Everything was a lie. I lay on the pillows, looking down at the powerful, arrogant Tyler Vance, the king of New York's underground, the heir to billions, sobbing at my feet like a condemned murderer begging for mercy. My heart didn't beat faster. My blood didn't run hot. I felt nothing. Absolute, profound apathy. I am so sorry, Arya. I'm so sorry. Tyler slammed his head against the floor, blood seeping through his head bandage. I hit you. I broke your ribs. I almost killed you. I gave her your necklace. I took her side. Stand up, Tyler, I said softly. My voice was weak, but it cut through his sobbing like a razor. Tyler lifted his tear-streaked face, his eyes filled with a pathetic, desperate spark of hope. Arya, you're talking to me. Stand up, I repeated calmly. You're ruining the clean floor. Tyler scrambled to his feet, wiping his face frantically with his wet sleeve, looking at me like a dog waiting for a command. Arya, I brought the best surgeons from Europe. I bought this entire hospital 30 minutes ago. Anything you need, anything your grandmother needs. I'll give you everything. My company, my money, my life. Just let me fix this. Fix it. I looked at him, my expression placid and serene. Can you unshatter my ribs? I asked gently. Tyler flinched. Can you untear my lung? His breath caught. Can you take back the moment you slapped my face while my grandma was crying on the street? Arya, please. Tyler wept, shaking his head in agony. You can't fix anything, Tyler, I whispered, turning my head to look out the rain-slicked window. Because the Arya who loved you died 3 days ago in that fight ring. No, don't say that. Tyler lunged forward, trying to grab my hand. Marcus hit him. A solid, heavy right hook straight to Tyler's jaw. Tyler didn't even try to block it. He took the punch head-on, staggering back against the wall, blood pouring from his lip. He didn't look at Marcus, his eyes remained glued to me, wild with despair. Get out, Marcus growled, before I call security and have you thrown into the street. Tyler looked at me one last time, hoping for a single drop of anger, hatred, or sorrow in my eyes. He found only blank, cold indifference. And that indifference destroyed him far more completely than any blade ever could. 3 days later, the Vance-Sinclair corporate merger gala, the biggest event of the year for New York high society, was held at the Plaza Hotel. The grand ballroom was filled with glittering chandeliers, black tie, billionaires, politicians, and news cameras from every major network. The Sinclair family stood near the center stage, dressed in exquisite attire, receiving congratulations from guests. Chloe sat in her wheelchair, wearing a stunning white lace diamond dress, a glass of champagne in her hand, smiling radiantly for the photographers. "Where is Tyler?" Chloe's mother whispered, looking around nervously. "The announcement is in 10 minutes. He's probably just finalizing the paperwork downstairs." Chloe smiled sweetly, though a seed of anxiety was beginning to grow in her chest. Ever since the night at the docks, Tyler had vanished. He hadn't answered her calls, hadn't visited her, and hadn't sent any messages. Suddenly, the heavy double doors of the ballroom swung open. The crowd quieted down as Tyler Vance walked into the room. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He wore a rumpled black suit, his tie loose, his hair messy. His eyes were bloodshot and hollow, his face pale and sunken. "Tyler." Chloe's face lit up with joy. She rolled her chair toward him. "Immediately. You finally arrived. Everyone is waiting for our merger announcement." Tyler didn't look at her. He walked straight past her, stepping onto the main stage and picking up the master microphone from the podium. The room fell dead silent. "Ladies and gentlemen." Tyler's voice echoed through the high-end sound system, dull and lifeless. "Thank you for coming tonight." Chloe smiled proudly from the front row, adjusting her hair. "Tonight," Tyler continued, turning his cold, hollow eyes toward the Sinclair family, "I have a special announcement regarding the Sinclair Group and Miss Chloe Sinclair." He pulled a black remote control from his pocket and pressed a button. The massive LED screen behind the stage, intended to display the new joint corporate logo, cut to black. A second later, a document appeared on the screen. It was a certified medical affidavit from St. Jude's Hospital, signed by the Chief of Medicine and federal investigators, detailing 18 counts of medical fraud, bribe diagnoses, and illegal prescription distribution. The crowd erupted into shocked gasps. "What is this?" Chloe's father roared, his face turning purple. "Tyler, have you lost your mind? Turn it off. Turn it off right now." Chloe screamed, her sweet voice turning into a high-pitched, hysterical shriek as she tried to stand up from her wheelchair to block the screen, completely forgetting that she was supposed to be paralyzed and dying. She stood straight up on her own 2 feet, running toward the stage. The entire room froze. Hundreds of cameras flashed rapidly, capturing the miraculous recovery of the terminally ill heiress running in 3-inch heels across the ballroom floor. "Look at her. She's standing. She was never sick at all. The Sinclairs faked a terminal illness for market sympathy?" The ballroom descended into utter chaos. Journalists pushed past security guards, their cameras flashing relentlessly in Chloe's face. Chloe stopped dead in her tracks on the stage steps, realizing what she had just done. Her face went from red to an absolute ghastly white. No, it's a trick," Chloe shrieked, backing away frantically, her heels clicking loudly against the marble. "Tyler, save me. They're setting me up." Tyler looked down at her from the stage, his expression colder than a winter. "Grave. I spent 2 years being your puppet," Tyler said into the microphone, his voice playing clearly over the speakers. "I destroyed the life of the only woman who ever truly loved me because I believed your pathetic lies." He pressed the remote again. The screen changed. This time, it was a crystal-clear video feed from the Riverside District eviction, showing Chloe's enforcers throwing Grandma Eleanor out into the snow, followed by audio recordings of Chloe's voice ordering them to starve the old woman out. Then came the hospital surveillance footage, showing Chloe entering Grandma's ward and stealing Aria's blue bank card from under her pillow. The evidence was undeniable, irrefutable, cruel beyond words. "Oh my God." A high society matriarch covered her mouth in horror. "She stole from a dying old woman. The Sinclairs are monsters." At that exact moment, the heavy back doors of the Plaza Ballroom were slammed open by armed federal agents and officers from the NYPD Financial Crimes Division. "Chloe Sinclair. Richard Sinclair," the lead agent announced, pulling out dark steel handcuffs. "You are under arrest for federal real estate fraud, corporate embezzlement, grand larceny, and conspiracy to commit murder." Chloe's mother fainted on the spot. Her father was immediately tackled to the floor by federal agents as he tried to run for the side exit. Chloe backed away, screaming hysterically, tearing at her hair as officers surrounded her. "Tyler, help me. You loved me. You promised to take care of me," she wailed. reaching her manicured hands toward him as the steel handcuffs snapped tightly around her wrists. Tyler didn't even blink. He laid the microphone down on the podium, turned his back on the chaotic scene, and walked off the stage. 6 months later, the coastal town of Mendocino, California, was quiet and beautiful. The air smelled of salt and wild pine, and the ocean waves crashed gently against the golden cliffs beneath the blue sky. I stood in the garden of a small, white wooden house overlooking the sea, holding a pair of shears, trimming the lavender bushes. My ribs had healed completely, leaving only a faint, pale scar across my torso. My breath was deep and easy. Aria, the tea is ready, Grandma called out from the porch. She sat in a comfortable rocking chair, wrapped in a warm knitted blanket, her cheeks rosy and full of life. The treatments in California had worked wonders, and her cancer was officially in remission. Coming, Grandma. I smiled, putting down the shears. Just as I turned toward the porch, I noticed a figure standing at the wooden gate of our driveway. He wore a plain gray coat, his body thin and frail, his hair streaked silver at the temples. He held a small, elegant velvet box in his hands. It was Tyler. He looked like a ghost of the man he used to be. The billionaire heir, the undefeated underground fighter, was completely gone. In his eyes was only a vast, empty wasteland of eternal regret. He didn't open the gate. He didn't dare step onto my land. He just stood there in the gentle sea breeze, looking at me with eyes full of quiet, desperate longing. I walked slowly down the stone path, stopping a few feet away from the gate. Aria, he spoke, his voice dry and fragile like paper. Tyler. I acknowledged softly. He looked at my rosy cheeks, my healthy posture, and the calm light in my eyes. A tear slipped silently down his cheek. I brought this, he said, his hands shaking as he opened the velvet box. Inside lay the white handkerchief he had given me 3 years ago, on the day we first met in the dark locker room, now washed, pressed, and spotless. Alongside it was the deed to the entire Riverside district in New York, completely transferred into my name, rebuilt with affordable housing for all our old neighbors. I don't need it, Tyler, I said gently. I know, he choked out, a bitter, broken smile touching his lips. I know you don't need anything from me anymore. I wanted to see with my own eyes that you were safe, that you were happy. I am happy, I said softly. Very happy. Tyler nodded slowly, tears pouring down his face, but he forced himself to smile. That's good, he whispered. That's all that matters. He closed the velvet box, placed it gently on top of the wooden gatepost, and took 3 steps back. I won't ever bother you again, Aria, he said, his voice cracking with absolute finality. Live a long, beautiful life. He turned and walked slowly down the coastal road, his solitary figure shrinking against the vast, endless ocean horizon. I stood at the gate for a moment, watching him leave, feeling the warm sea breeze brush through my hair. Then I turned around and walked back up the stone path, toward the warm house, toward my grandma, and toward the sunlit future that finally belonged to me.